They're looking for $30 a share with the like hidden threat being, oh, we'll spin into two pieces. It's not going to trade. In my opinion, it won't trade at $30 if it is two pieces. The whole problem, so it completely restructures Hollywood. If they do the deal, it restructures Hollywood. If they split into two, it restructures Hollywood. I think the biggest risk is that if Netflix buys the studio, and as you know, Netflix has been a long advocate of not using the window called, theatrical window. I think that could be really bad. I think Hollywood is most worried about that they say they'll continue Warner Brothers' practice of releasing theatricals, but that's like $100 million of marketing for every release. So you can make a lot of streaming content with each marketing budget of a Hollywood, theatrically released film. So I think that might change Hollywood the most. Obviously, if Comcast bought the studio, they don't want the whole thing. They only want the studio. That would put together two huge studios, Warner Brothers and Universal, because Comcast owns Universal Studios. So that would basically shrink the Hollywood business by half. Like they would just lay off one whole staff and keep the best of each position within. So that would really restructure Hollywood also from an employee point of view, probably not from a, like theatrical window point of view. And then Larry Ellison, if he gets it, he wants the whole thing. And the issue is we have an unproven track record. We have a billionaire financing his son. The son's owned Paramount for 30 seconds and he's unproven. And all he does is spend money on sports so far. That's his big innovation, is spend more money on sports rights and outbid other people. So now he'd be in charge of a $70 billion asset, or like you say, 90 billion if you include the debt. So that puts Hollywood in sort of even bigger risk from not immediately, but because we have a track record of somebody who has no proven ability to actually manage these types of assets.
Yeah. So Laura, as you mentioned, three very different proposals, very different bidders really for this company. Who do you think has the edge here?
My opinion, the edge is with Paramount, because my opinion is that the Washington, D.C. piece, the regulatory piece, is safest with Paramount because Donald Trump is a personal friend of Larry Ellison. They did that TikTok deal together. I think that there is an understanding that the regulatory agencies under the executive branch will not give Paramount a hard time getting this through. I think it'd be a very fast approval from Washington for Paramount to buy the whole thing. So from the point of view of Warner Brothers shareholders, from the point of view of DC regulatory, I think that is the best, most likely deal to close within a year.
So, Laura, how about if it is Paramount Skydance, they're going to need a big chunk of equity. And granted, Mr. Ellison has a lot of wealth, but how else would they finance the equity piece?
They're talking about the Middle East. I don't know how much America is going to like that, but they're talking about Middle East financiers, sovereign funds. As you know, for a long time, Paul, these studio assets are very glamorous. There are people that are willing to put money behind studio assets and studio buys. And Warner Brothers, has a lot of real estate, has a massive lot here in Hollywood. So you absolutely could get like a real estate bidder to maybe buy the land piece, and then Warner Brothers would sign a long-term lease. So there's creative financings that could come out of other parts of the world, in part because of the glamour and in part because of the actual physical assets that underlie a studio.
So, Laura, what do you think is a good value here for the combined co here? I guess factoring in synergies as well.
So the answer, I would say, this stock was trading at 12.
Yep.
Then Zaslav's deal, he got paid out at 17. So I would have said 20 was a good price for this company. We're at 27 and he says he wants to get to 30. So I think all of that is negotiating skills and creating an auction-ish, even though two only want the studio and only one wants the whole thing. So I think this is, I think they're overpaying for these assets, frankly.